Hello, welcome back to the Project Hercules Diaries. Today I'm aided by my beautiful assistant Nick. There he is, very clever bloke who helps me out with a lot of the CNC stuff. What we've done, we've taken the whole crank assembly out, but we've left the sleeve drive chain in there, and we fitted a timing disc onto the crank side. What we were unable to do at the moment is rotate the crank through a full 720-degree cycle because the conrod's contacting the sleeve. That's a problem that's relatively straightforward to fix, and we'll talk about that in a bit. But as we weren't able to run the full cycle, we couldn't actually check and measure when the valves were opening and closing. We could do either side of top dead center on the compression stroke, but we couldn't measure the overlap at the end of the exhaust stroke. So what we're able to do now is exactly that, to measure when the valves are opening and closing and where the overlap is, just to make sure that it is actually going to run. So there's a few things that we've got the possibility of using to adjust that. If we fit a compression plate underneath here, that effectively raises the barrel and extends the duration of the opening, and the relative position or timings of the exhaust and inlet are in relation to the crank, depending on how we set the timing on the chain. But what we can't do is anything about the overlap, because that's just set relative by the distance apart of the ports in the sleeve. So there's a fair bit of head scratching. This isn't a conventional engine, and there's a fair bit to think about. But what we can do, though, we can turn it over with an electric drill. When we do that, you can see the whole thing in operation. You can see the sleeve descending and rotating and ascending. You can see the exhaust valves opening, and you can see the inlet valves opening and closing. So it's really quite a clever thing. You know, there's only 4 ports. One of them's a different shape because it's an exhaust port on one part of the cycle and an inlet port on the other part of the cycle. And you can see the 3 inlet ports there opening and closing in the cycle. And you can also see the exhaust ports opening and closing in the cycle. When we've managed to get the piston clearance done, we'll fit the piston back in and we'll do the same thing, and then you'll see the full thing in operation. But I think that looks quite cool, and it was worth sharing. So as usual, thank you for watching. More updates will follow.